be seated. We're ready to go. We have technical problems.
No, I'm just
He's
making
just
sure
trying
it's
to cue
queued
it
up,
up.
Judge.
All right. Oh, wait a minute. Where's my defense team?
They were just there.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring out the jury till I have my lawyers. Please.
Pretty close. So I'll skip around. I'll move it. Yeah.
Hang on just a second. Is Mr. Claypool coming back? A few minutes. Okay, I was going to say, because we're past the 5 minutes, I want to go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and bring out the jury.
Jury entering.
All right, counsel may be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Williams, whenever you're ready, rebuttal.
That's 6 o'clock. All right, just really quick, I want to go through a few things. Number one, remember who's on trial. And guys, we talked about this in jury selection. Your job here is to decide if she committed solicitation to commit first-degree murder. That person right there, that's who's on trial for your job. The cops aren't on trial. I'm not on trial. Muhammad Shahadi's on trial. She's on trial for her actions, for her words, and for her intent. What she did back between July 31st and August 5th, 2009. And all the stuff that happened before, because we know she was trying to kill her husband back in March of 2009 before the ring on her finger was even worn. Don't be misled about your responsibility. She's the only person on trial for you guys. In this case, to Mike Dippolito and probably our community, Alex Marino is a hero. He prevented the murder of Mike Dippolito. Woody John is a hero for helping save the life of Mike Dippolito. Muhammad Shahadi is a hero to Mike Dippolito because he had a conscience and he knew what was going to happen. He knew what was coming. Remember, they tell you he didn't think it was serious. Really. These are his own words. I didn't put these words in his mouth. That's when I decided to come to you guys because she is really, dead serious on getting this stuff. He didn't mean it. Keep talking about the fact that she's a victim of domestic violence. Let's get one thing straight. There is a victim of domestic violence in this case, and it's Mike Dippolito. There's a person who abused the right to call themselves...
Overruled.
There's a person who's abusing that right about domestic violence, and then there's a real victim of domestic violence. Listen to this. I didn't put these words in Muhammad Shahadi's mouth. These are words out of her mouth to Muhammad Shahadi. And then basically, she tried to lie to Officer Robert, to Detective Robert, this is the officer from Palm Beach Gardens Police Department, and say that her husband was beating her, and that he was selling drugs and he's on probation, and that there's drugs in his truck at the gym every morning. And Officer Robert asked her many times to come in and speak to him. She wouldn't, because she said she is scared for her life. It was all a lie. Because I even told Robert that she tells me that he's the nicest, sweetest nerd, but she can't stand him. He would never lay his hands on her. Really? They say Muhammad Shahadi was threatened. Oh, before I go there, a little more about the domestic violence. Listen to her own words at the beginning of the tape on August 1st of 2009 when she meets with Muhammad Shahadi at the mobile gas station. Listen to her own words about why she wants him killed. Remember?
Yeah, wait, so is that honestly your word? Seriously, you'll kill me over that much money?
It's not even over the fucking money. Like, you don't fucking get it. Like, it's not even about the fucking money. Like, you know that money. We'll spend it, like, in the fucking blink of an eye. It's not about the fucking money.
The noise. We'll play it one more time. Yes.
Over that much money?
It's not even over the fucking money. Like, you don't fucking get it. Like, it's not even about the fucking money. Like, you know that money. We'll spend it, like, in the fucking blink of an eye. It's not about the fucking money. Like, it's about, like, his fucking friends and all that other shit. Like, the thing is, it's like, okay, with his wife, like, she didn't have anything. They were, like, renting. So, like, divorcing her, it didn't matter. Like, me going and fucking filing for divorce, like, he'll come after my fucking ass. Period.
Okay,
You know
well,
what
I'm
I
trying
mean?
to
It's
say is
like, and all his friends, like, he ran into another guy today at Target that was, like, organized crime or whatever. Also,
Let's look at the domestic violence, right? Muhammad being threatened. So remember, he's told you that he was basically threatened on the Ivory Coast the first night he was in, which is Friday night. He's then threatened again repeatedly Saturday to come down there to do all this stuff, to wire his car, to meet with her, forced to meet with her, remember? Had to do this all within 72 hours. And he, after she gets out of the car, here's this phone conversation with him and his uncle on the way out.
Yeah, yeah. We submitted everything. I thought they was sorry. Now they're following me back to the police station so they can unwire me.
Why you call it over? That's good.
I can't. I'm not going to sleep knowing.
Like in summer.
I said I'm not going to be able to sleep knowing that someone's going to get killed. You know, I had to get it off my chest. You know.
لا خلص منيح يمكن.
Yeah, that's somebody who was repeatedly threatened to cooperate with the police. Or does that sound like somebody who has a conscience and is cooperating because he can't live knowing the fact that someone's going to get murdered at her hands? Right there. She's not going to do it with her own hands because she's going to manipulate other people and have them do her dirty work for her. Right, he's manipulated and threatened. The evidence doesn't lie. Sometimes witnesses do, but the evidence doesn't. The text messages show nothing about the killing. So you guys ad nauseum, you guys have been drilled through this stuff. You might have seen more than I've seen. But we know the date. So we know that throughout the text messages that she's repeatedly saying, we need to get this done. We need to get it done this weekend. I can't wait to be with you. She says it over and over, and this is an urgency in her mind. Got to do it, got to do it, got to do it. So they set him up. She basically steals the house from him. She lies to him and gets him to sign the house over to her. And this is, right here, this is her. I'm going to rip it off so you guys can see it. And I went over this with you guys already. But remember, this is the text, the starting text. This is her phone number that she was using, the Miami phone, the little white one. And she is texting to Mike Stanley. And it said, did the transfer. But he said, the lawyer, because we're married, I can't sell it without his signature, even though it's in my name. Because remember, the whole goal was, hey, we steal a house from him. We're on Easy Street. We got a $230,000 house. This is good. I got all the money stolen. I stole the $100,000 already, plus the $30,000. She'd be walking away with $400,000 and change. This is the reply from Mike Stanley, who's assisting her in committing all these terroristic acts towards her husband, trying to have him arrested, trying to poison him. There's all kinds of stuff that's going on that this guy's involved in. And his response back to her is, Remember?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, you will disregard Mr. Williams' last comment concerning poisoning.
All right, so July 31st, around the day that Muhammad Shahadi goes, she's putting pressure on Muhammad now to get someone to kill him, to get someone to kill him. And this is the reply back from Mike Stanley. Sorry. Fuck. Kind of what we talked about. This AM, marital assets. And then, interesting, what does this say? May benefit somehow. Really? So if your goal was to steal your house from this person you hated, you married to steal all their money. You know, everybody knows here, without a doubt, this woman never loved Mike Dippolito for a second in her life. And remember, what does Mr. Shahadi tell you? He's having an affair with her in March. So she got married. They were not even a month old newlyweds. She's sleeping with Muhammad Shahadi, buying him a $38,000 Range Rover with money she stole from Mike Dippolito. So we know for a fact she doesn't like him. He is basically a piggy bank, and she's just trying to break it open. And if she can't break it open by killing him, then she's going to break it open by having him arrested. And if she can't break it open by having him arrested, then she's going to break it open by killing him. And that's basically the way it went. March was kill him. Throughout the rest of the time, it was let's get him arrested. And then to July, the end of July, it's now I got to go back to killing him again. So when we say, may benefit somehow, well, how do you benefit when you get somebody's property in your name and you can't dispose of it without them? But if it's in your name and you're married, you guys don't know that. If your spouse is deceased, you get all your spouse's assets.
Objection, Judge. We approve.
Yes.
And that's when it gets serious again. Because it was serious in March, and it gets serious again now, July 31st. And we know it gets serious because then this one out-of-place text takes place. And this one is, so now this is at 6, it starts at 6:21:56 on August 1st. So this is after she met with Muhammad Shahadi on August 1st. So she meets with him at the CVS, I think it was in the 3 or 4 o'clock range, and they talk about that he's going to set up a hit. And then this is basically, this is written for you guys. And it says, hey, thanks for this. This is from him to her, August 1st. Hey, thanks for the service. My confidence is so much better, and I think I may start seeing somebody very serious. I talk to girls so much better now. And then she replies back, no problem. I'm glad the role-playing has helped you. Good luck and stay in touch. That's what he does. The cover. And then he replies back, thank you. I feel more comfortable expressing myself now. Yeah, because honestly, they're excited now because he's going to get killed. They're going to be together, and they're going to have all this stuff. Just want to go over one thing that the judge is going to instruct you on the end of the law. It's going to tell you in closing, basically the last thing it's going to tell you. Let me remind you that it's important that you follow the law spelled out in these instructions and decide your verdicts. Okay, and we all talk about this. You guys are all going to believe that. You'll promise to follow the law. There's one other thing that I want you guys to listen to. There are no other laws that apply to this case. So if you think, we talk about some stuff in jury selection. about other issues about the law. If it's not in here, you can't consider it. So these are your rules. This is the law that applies to this case and only this law. So you can take all the evidence that you've received in the case, because that's all for you guys to decide and weigh and determine the credibility. But you apply it to only this law, the capital law that you use. There are no other laws that apply. So base your burden on what is in here along with the evidence that you guys get. Okay? I talked to you guys about this in the jury selection. You can't rationalize irrational behavior. It's hard for somebody with emotions and feelings for other people to sit back and say, how could somebody possibly be that cold? How could somebody be that calculated? How could somebody be that tenacious and deliberate in trying to destroy and murder another person? How's that possible? You can't rationalize irrational behavior. Don't do it. You just take the facts, you apply them to the law, and that's it. It's that simple. If we prove the elements of solicitation and murder, it doesn't matter whether it's rational or irrational. You guys must find her guilty as charged. Okay? Don't be fooled by that. Don't let your own feelings get in the way of that. Because remember, all the police did in this case, and all they did in this case, was give her the opportunity to kill Mike Dippolito. That's all they did. They provided her with an opportunity to get it done. Because she didn't want to do it herself. Just like her text messages said, she doesn't do anything herself. She didn't make phone calls herself. She didn't call the IRS, the U.S. Treasury, the probation officer, the police department, research stuff on the internet. She didn't do anything herself. She uses other people constantly to do things for her, and that's what she does. They allowed her to use them, is what they did. They keep talking about how horrible this investigation is. There's a mountain of evidence in this case. A mountain. And it doesn't matter how much you look at, whether you look at a little bit of it or you look at every piece of it, it all comes back to one thing. That woman is as guilty as anybody has ever been in a criminal courtroom. Right there. It doesn't get any better than this. It's like old Milwaukee. It doesn't get any better. The police, not only did they give her every benefit of the doubt in this case. Are you sure you want to do this? Remember Woody telling her that? Are you sure? Because you can't back out. And I'm 5,000% sure. They don't arrest her. They wait till the next day. Don't arrest her. They call her and say, hey, it's not going to happen at the bank. Bank's not going to be a good deal. It's going to happen at the house. Be out by 6. They give her the rest of August 3rd to back out. They give her all day on August 4th to back out. They give her up till 6 o'clock in the morning on August 5th to back out. She wasn't kidding. She was 5,000% sure. She wasn't going to change her mind. She wanted her husband dead. 2 bullets in his head, murdered in the inside of her house. She wanted Woody John to sneak into her house while he was out walking those dogs and to put 2 bullets in his head and murder him. So that's the way his family would remember him. That's what she wanted to see happen. And she laughed about it. Cold. You can criticize everything that I've said and done in this case. You can criticize and attack everything Mrs. Laurie has done and said in this case. You can criticize and attack Alex Moynihan on everything he's done in his investigation. You can criticize and attack Sergeant Sheridan. You can criticize and attack Woody John. You can criticize and attack Mohammed Shahadi. You can criticize and attack every single person at the Boynton Beach Police Department. But you know what? When you parse through all that criticism and you focus in on what your job is, her actions, her words, and her intent, it comes to the same conclusion. That woman is as guilty as ever, right there. Ever. We're asking you to follow the law and hold her accountable for her actions. The evidence is overwhelming. Find her guilty because it's just, find her guilty because it's right, and find her guilty because every single one of you knows it's supported by the overwhelming mountain of evidence in this case. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. All right, members of the jury, there's a few final written instructions I need to give to you. As before, you can either read with me or listen to me read. If you want to read along with me, you're going to find them on page 7 of that package of jury instructions that I gave to you before under the subtitle Final Instructions. So I'll publish those instructions for you now. In just a few moments, you'll be taken to the jury room by the court deputy. The first thing you should do is elect a foreperson who will preside over your deliberations like a chairperson of a meeting. It is the foreperson's job to sign and date the verdict form when all of you are agreed on a verdict in this case, and to bring the verdict form back to the courtroom when you return. Your verdict finding the defendant either guilty or not guilty must be unanimous. The verdict must be the verdict of each juror as well as the jury as a whole. During deliberations, jurors must communicate only about the case only with one another and only when all jurors are present in the jury room. You are not to communicate with any person outside the jury about this case. Until you've reached a verdict, you must not talk about this case in person or through the telephone, writing, or electronic communication such as a blog, Twitter, email, text message, or any other means. Do not contact anyone to assist you during your deliberations. These communication rules apply until I discharge you at the end of the case. If you become aware of any violation of these instructions or any other instruction I've given in this case, you must tell me by giving a note to the court deputy. Many of you may have cell phones, tablets, laptops, or other electronic devices here in the courtroom. The rules do not allow you to bring your phones or any of those types of electronic devices into the jury room. Kindly leave those devices on your seats where they'll be guarded by the court deputy while you deliberate. If you need to communicate with me, send a note through the court deputy signed by the foreperson. If you have voted, do not disclose the actual vote in the note. If you have questions, I will talk with the attorneys before I answer, so it may take some time. You may continue your deliberations while you wait for my answer. I will answer any questions if I can, in writing or orally here in open court. During the trial, items were received into evidence as exhibits. You may examine whatever exhibits you think will help you in your deliberations. These exhibits will be sent into the jury room with you when you begin to deliberate. Videos and recordings must be played back for you in open court. In closing, let me remind you that it is important that you follow the law spelled out in these instructions in deciding your verdict. There are no other laws that apply to this case. Even if you do not like the laws that must be applied, you must use them. For 2 centuries, we live by the Constitution and the law. No juror has the right to violate rules we all share. Those are the written instructions I have for you. I do have a legal duty I have to discharge, and then a couple of final instructions before I send you back into the jury room to begin your deliberations. Let me begin with my legal duty. Under clear Florida law, I can only send 6 of you back to deliberate. Obviously, there are 8 of you sitting there, which means we have selected 2 alternates for this case. It's my duty and responsibility to discharge those alternates at this time. It's always difficult to discharge alternates in any case because you sat through the entire trial and you do not get to deliberate. It's particularly tough in a case like this because you've been here since June 2nd. So I understand it's difficult when I let alternates go. Alternates play a very important role in our system. If we were to lose any juror during the course of the trial and we did not have alternates, we would have to start the entire trial over again. You've seen in this case how long it's taken to select a jury and to try the case. So you can imagine if we didn't have alternates and we lost one of our main jurors, then we would have to start the case all over again. So while I'm going to discharge the alternates at this time, I want you to understand it's very important that you're a part of this process. Ms. Spills and Mr. Aubin, you are the alternates. We are going to discharge you at this time with our thanks. Probably little consolation, but there's a certificate of appreciation for you signed by the Chief Judge of the 15th Judicial Circuit, the Honorable Jeffrey Colbath. Just one last word I'll say, and I don't want to belabor it. When you leave here, you have a privilege not to speak with anyone concerning this case if you choose not to. However, you have a privilege to speak with anyone you like about this case because we're now discharging you from jury service. So that's up to you. If you are approached by people who are curious about this case and you don't want to speak about the case, you just tell them, I do not want to speak about this case. On the other hand, you're free to speak with anyone concerning your jury experience. So at this time, we're going to take you out through the back the same way we've been taking out jurors all day. So we're going to go ahead and discharge you at this time with our appreciation and thanks. All right, counsel, you may be seated. Just a few final instructions before I send you back into the jury room to begin your deliberations. Let me tell you how we're going to communicate with each other going forward. It's all going to start with a knock on that door. When you reach a verdict, or if you have a question, whatever the case may be, you need to speak with us. You're going to knock on that door. If you knock on the door, the deputy will come find out why you're knocking. Now, just so you know, the attorneys and the parties are not required to stay in the courtroom during your deliberations. So if you knock on the door, it may take a few moments to get everyone back into the courtroom. I'm close. I'm just back here. But the attorneys and the parties, they're not required to sit in here while you deliberate. They can go out, stretch, go downstairs, etc. So it may take a little time to get everybody back into the courtroom. But once we hear that knock, the deputy will start making phone calls. We'll get everybody back in. If it's a verdict, we'll take the verdict. If it's a question, we'll take a question. If it's something else, we'll deal with it. If we need to speak with you, it's also going to begin with a knock on the door. The deputy will knock on the door. If you hear a knock on the door, please cease all deliberations and send someone to the door to answer. Now, right after you go back, within a few minutes after you're going back to begin your deliberations, there will be a knock on the door. Because what's going to happen is we're going to gather up this physical evidence that's been received in this trial, and the deputy is going to bring that physical evidence back to you along with the original verdict form, which I indicated you do not have yet. So he's going to bring back to you the verdict form and also the evidence that's been received in this case. I mentioned in the written instructions you cannot take your cell phones and other electronic devices back into the jury room, because remember, it's important that you discuss this case only amongst yourselves. Also important you do no research. So we're going to send you back without your cell phones or electronic devices. Neil, do you want them out here? You're going to collect them up?
I legally leave mine. I don't have my basket.
Okay. The way Deputy Cascone handles this two different ways. Sometimes we just leave them here. Sometimes he collects them up. There is a deputy in this courtroom at all times during your deliberations. We have not lost a cell phone yet. So it will be safe. You can leave your electronic device here. We'll have a deputy guarding it. Just leave it on your chair or on the jury rail. Other than cell phones or other electronic devices, you can take everything else back, and all your personal effects back with you. Obviously your notes, you can take all that back with you. So at this time, I'm now going to send you back in the jury room to begin your deliberations. Shortly, we'll send back the evidence and the jury form.
Okay.
One more. Counsel, you may be seated. I will need both sides to come forward, review the evidence, acknowledge affirmatively on the record the evidence is there and ready to go back. Michelle, these are the original instructions I read if you want to file those. I know there's quite a bit up there, so make sure you review it. Are you going to gather them up? Yeah. Okay. Here's the verdict form. You got to take the watch off? You know, I never think of that. Yeah. I think the discs, by agreement, before we said we leave them out because we request them to be played back if they want them. What's that?
Mr. Sherman, you may be missing your bachelor party district.
No.
I couldn't go to the whole trial. Although I'm going on buddies on Wednesday.
There you go. You make up for it. I've been to enough bachelor parties in my day. No, I've had enough. Neil, do you have everyone's phone number?
I do.
Okay. Does the state acknowledge the evidence is ready to go back?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense?
Yes.
Okay, so the evidence is ready to go back. We'll send the evidence back with a verdict form, and then we'll recess until we have a question or a verdict, or we go home for the night. What'd you do, Neil?